Proposed resolution number 19228, a resolution approving Highway 365 sanitary sewer upgrades and lift station rehabilitation. Councilman Albright.
Make motion.
Councilmember Freeman.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve proposed resolution number 19228. Questions? Councilman Albright.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, it didn't say in the background information how you're paying for it.
I'm sorry, ask the question again, Councilman.
It didn't say in the background information how you're paying for it.
This project is about $1.5 million. The developer is going to contribute $500,000. That's roughly the cost of the lift station improvements. This was a line we were going to have to repair anyways, and they came in with an apartment complex with 420 units, which has a lot of sewer effluent, and we felt like we needed to upgrade it as part of their coming to town, and they agreed to contribute the $500,000 to the project, and I think it's a great partnership.
I think it is too. How are you paying for it?
Who wants to know?
Where is Jerry Dale? Is he in the audience? Jerry's not in here. Jimmy, can you tell how we're going to pay for it?
And also in the background information, it didn't say about the apartment complex doing the 500.
And Dr. Johnson, if you pick up that mic, yeah, thank you.
Mayor, Council.
Yes, sir.
Talking with Mr. Dale, there was some leftover monies in one of the risk pools, a little bit over $1 million that we were going to use to pay for this project.
Okay, so we're just going to pay for it in cash.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
City Attorney?
And I just also wanted to let you know that we'll be coming back to the council when it's time for the construction contract as well as the contract with the developer, but this is just like the approval of the actual project. And the construction, when we're at a point to award the construction contract, we'll be coming back to council.
I'm sorry, I got one more question.
Go ahead.
All right. City Manager, we briefly talked about pulling out of these risk pools, pulling down on them as far as the money that we have up in them. Is there a benchmark that you do that at, or is it just a return? They just return money to you? How does that work?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question, Councilman.
Okay. We're pulling off of what Dr. J said, off of a risk thing from TML, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember the CPA saying that there was money, that we had too much money up there and money could be pulled down. But
right.
did you set a policy as far as how far you're going to bring those down?
We looked at I think there was $3 million in there, Councilman, and we figured that was way too much. You know, our exposure with TML and our stop gaps are, you know, in the neighborhood of $400,000 or so. So we didn't see any risk in reducing that $1 million.
Okay, but are you going to put a policy in that says I'm going to keep $1 million in it, $2 million in it?
We can. We need to. We when we went through the budget process, we saw some things that we needed to make some changes to. Quite frankly, we had to do it in a pretty quick manner, but we've got to get some more of that to you guys to set a policy so that we know what's in there and what you guys have approved.
All right, thanks, City Manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Lewis?
Dr. Johnson? What is the $500,000 for?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Councilman Lewis, the $500,000 has to do with the lift station improvements.
I can hardly hear you.
I'm sorry. The $500,000 has to do with the lift station improvements, replacing the existing pumps, electrical, and panel controls.
Okay. Well, so what's the $1 million for? It's $1.5 million?
The total cost was $1.5 million, estimated $1.5 million. The $1 million is for the 2,700 feet of linear foot to replace the 18-inch clay pipe and install 30-inch PVC piping.
Okay.
It's also to remove and replace 4 existing manholes.
Okay. Why are we doing this? To do what?
We're doing this to meet future demands and for the public good.
Yeah, but why, you got the apartment complex going in, and why aren't they paying for all this? It's gonna be benefiting them.
Well,
I know they're rolling out $500,000, but we spending $1 million, we throwing in $1 million. Why aren't they paying for the whole project?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
periodically we have to go in and repair lines. I at some point want to have a master plan for our water and sewer system so that we can prioritize those. What we have in this area over there is the effluent from the hospital, from a lot of the retail that's out there, and this line and this lift station were put in the 60s. And there's way more demand coming for development out that way, and we want to get in front of it. So we made the determination that eventually we would have to improve this line and this lift station, and we negotiated with the developer to help pay for it because he needs it now. Now, there was a long process at which we went through, but I think this is a good partnership between the developer and the city where we get a portion of the project paid for. So I caution the council to question too much about that because we want these developers here. It's 420 new market rate housing, and they've agreed to help contribute because they know that that line has some age on it. So I hope that answers your question, Councilman.
You see what I'm saying? You see how creative we get when it comes to things out in that area? How creative we get. We come up and find ways to do things. You see what I'm talking about? When you come on this end for development, what happens? Oh, we can't do that. We don't have a policy.
Councilmember Mosley.
Thank you, Mayor. Not very often I hear my first name. But,
It's all right. It's your given one.
yeah, it's mine.
Right. Go ahead.
And I appreciate you remembering it. What I'd like to say, my concern, I guess, is here, when the question was asked, how are you going to do it? How are we going to do it? And the answer was, we found money in the risk pool. When the taxpayers asked, I need my street fixed, we can't find money in the risk pool. We don't know where any money is. All of a sudden, we find $1 million in the risk pool to develop a project in the north end of Port Arthur. My understanding a while back that we had decided as a council we were going to do more development and encourage more development south of 73. We're still not doing it. We find reasons, excuses not to do it, not to find money. Every rain, I find myself and Councilman Lewis running into each other out here trying to make sure all the pumps are on. Every rain. Taxpayers are calling us every rain. We're in the west side, all over the west side, from flooding, water getting up to the front door of people's houses, every rain. And we can't find a dime to help them. But we can find $1 million in the risk pool to help a developer build an apartment in North Port Arthur. I have a problem with that. What are we going to do to solve the problems of flooding folks in 17th, 18th Street in Port Arthur, West Port Arthur? What are we going to do with the drainage that's backing up all over West Port Arthur? I'm looking for answers. The folks are tired of hearing excuses. But we can find $1 million in the risk pool to help a developer build an apartment in North Port Arthur.
City Manager, you want to respond to that?
Somebody.
I want to hear the
Madam Mayor,
response.
if Dr. Johnson would take a seat, I think it might be appropriate at this point to bring the city's engineer to the podium
Who
to.
is that?
I guess the other question was this budgeted?
Yes.
Sir, you want to come
We
up?
talked about this during the budget process.
We talked about it, and it was budgeted.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council,
Yes, sir.
we are aware of the drainage problem on this part of town. We have drainage problem everywhere. In order to solve your problem, we need to do the drainage study.
Excuse me?
Drainage study to find out the problem area. At this point in time, we know the problem, we know the flooding area, but in order to solve it, we cannot go pick up a point and say the problem is here. The problem is everywhere. It started from the pump from the DD7, also to system, the one we have. Our system was designed long time ago. It was 2-inch rain per hour. Right now it's 7 inch per hour. That's how we designed the system. That's the problem area is. So I guess council, the city manager, we need to find out if we really wanted to study the whole area and then find out and fix as we go.
Should we start in North Port Arthur or should we start in South Port Arthur where we already know the flooding problems are?
After we did a study,
After we do.
yes, right now,
As we do the project.
yes, we have to do the study, find the problem area.
No. After we do the project, then we do the study. Is that what you're saying?
No. I don't know how, when you cancel do the project, we don't know what to do right now. If we fix in this point right now, maybe the problem area is somewhere else.
Well, what we've
It's
been...
all contributed to
Yeah,
each other.
I understand. What we have been dealing with is that taxpayers for the last 10 years have been complaining about the problems we're having now. I wasn't on council then. I'm on council now, and they're still complaining about the sewer and the flooding problems that we have now in South Port Arthur. And we still haven't done this study. We still haven't got them any help, but we're still finding money to develop North Port Arthur. Does anybody give him that? Oh.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I recognize that we've been having a lot of flooding problems. Myself and the staff have had discussions about how we can address the flooding problems, particularly in some of our older neighborhoods. I understand, Councilman Mosley, that's a very passionate plea of yours. In this instance, we took it from a standpoint that we had a developer that came along, and Hassan, correct me if I'm wrong, in your calculations, if we don't upgrade this system in this area, then we won't be able to handle the amount of effluent from this new development. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The system was originally, before this development come in, the system was under design. This development come in and we don't do nothing, we'll be in trouble. The system, eventually we had to do something with the system, but since this development come in, they made us to go do it fast. We have to be prepared for it.
But I can assure you that we are looking at the drainage. It's a bigger issue than this particular item, and we understand that there are only so many resources. At the end of the day, council gets to make that decision. We're making a recommendation to go ahead with this project because we know it needs to be done at some point. If we don't do it today, we may have to do it next month or next year or 5 years down the road, but we've got a developer that wants to develop there in an area that's growing rapidly, and we wanted to be prepared for that when they get there. So otherwise, our feelings were we'd be holding up development on that corridor on 365. So if you guys have only known me for 11 months, but I like to think 20,000 foot view, and we have been having conversations about that drainage out there. And so we are working on it. It doesn't seem as much though at this point, but this one sort of hit our desks here probably 6 months ago, and we felt like we needed to address it. So it's at this agenda item is at the council's pleasure, and we're happy to answer any continued questions you may have.
Well, I have a question. Do we have another $1 million to try to start working on the issues that we're having with the flooding? Because you and I had a conversation this weekend with the flooding, Brian, and the situation itself was just out of hand. So because we've known about this for so many years, do we have another $1 million to start fixing the issue over there?
Mayor, is it $1 million or $10 million or $20 million? We don't know. Could be more than 1 million.
But do we have $1 million to get started? I'm just asking. Do we have $1 million? We've got $1 million for this complex.
We can start.
I want to know where the other $1 million is to start over there.
We didn't.
Where the flooding is. I'm just.
You know the thing that is crazy about this is the minute that y'all adopted our budget, all of a sudden these other things start creeping up, and so
no. The flooding over there didn't just creep up with the budget. It has nothing to do with the budget, to be honest with you. That has been going on for years, and we've been trying to get it fixed. So this issue that we're talking about now just came up, the complex. That's new. That's new. So my question is, do we have another $1 million to get started working on the issues that we've been dealing with prior to the complex? Prior to the complex.
We off topic.
Wait a minute. Huh?
We got a new chairman.
Well, I'm not getting up, so somebody's going to. No, she's no.
I'm not trying.
So I'm just asking, do we have, before we, okay, and I understand what you're saying, Councilmember. I really do it, and I'm gonna respect that. I guess it just got in my way.
I'm not sure.
Councilmember Swati.
I'm not sure where we're going from this conversation.
Don't worry about it.
we are trying.
Councilmember Hamilton is right, so I'm going to just leave that, even though she was late in the game to say that. But anyway, she's right. So, Councilmember Swati.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, you had made a comment, and Hassan's made a comment as well. Eventually, we have to do something. Why? I know why, but I'd like you to say it out loud. Why?
Sure. We're seeing a lot of new development off of the corridor on 365. And if we're not there for it when it comes in, then we'll potentially miss out on future projects.
Okay. I recall we had about 2 meetings regarding this matter, and some concerns were raised about where the money was come from, which you guys pretty much answered today. Other than that, it's a $1.5 million project, and this is going to happen regardless.
Right.
Either now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. If it happens later, all the money's going to come out of our pockets. But if we do it now, we're getting $500,000 from the developers as, I guess, reimbursement to us to start the work right now. So if it's something that we have to do inevitably, why don't we just do it now and get ahead of the game? I guess that's what your game plan was, to stay ahead of the ball?
That is it, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You see where the passion comes in? You're saying it's going to be done, later, but the issues are still, people are still suffering elsewhere.
At the end of the game, we're getting $500,000 and do something with it. And also the development that come in depends what kind of development is. If you go ahead, you have 26 acres, and if you put Walmart or Kmart or Sam's, we're dealing about 5 or 10 bathrooms. Now we're dealing 420 bathrooms or 820 bathrooms, because it's 420 units.
Yeah.
Well, I welcome the project itself. I don't have an issue with the project at all. Councilmember Hamilton.
I apologize, Mayor, just I'm sorry. I was not trying to be rude, just trying to help us stay on task. Mr. Hassan, you mentioned that there are studies that need to be done. I'll just mention again, City Manager, please take the opportunity to sit with DD7, and I'm almost more than sure Mr. Kelly will be open to sharing some of those studies that have already been done. And also for the community to understand that our pump stations come on automatically once our water gets to a certain level. No one has to physically, manually go and push a button for it to be turned on for our county stations.
Okay. Councilmember Lewis.
How you doing this morning? DD7 is not the pumping is not the problem. I've talked to the manager, and every time we flood up, I talk to the manager quite a bit. We back and forth. I suggested to the manager, Councilman, pick a project west of Houston Avenue. Pick that project. Go to that pump station. You got one right there by the underpass. You got another. The main pump station is over there by the MLK Bridge. Pick a project. Go to the pump station, the suction end of it. Work backwards. Find out what's the problem. The problem is the water is not getting to the pumps. The pumps works fine. I've been out in the rain and everything. They work fine. The electrical pumps that comes on, they're on. The second pump is not going to come on until the water level get a certain height. But you can't run these big pumps. They'll overspeed and they'll tear themselves up unless you got a sufficient amount of flowing, a level, because they'll destroy themselves. So the problem is we need to, like you call it, static tests or checking. Let's go start at MLK, work backwards all the way to 19th Street. Because Reverend Como them, I get a phone call, or I just go over there, and they'll come outside and they'll find me over there and find Councilman Mosley. We up the water knee deep, If we would just go and work backwards, we would troubleshoot it backwards, from the suction of those pumps all the way back to 19th Street and clear and find out what is the restriction. We got restrictions somewhere. I'm looking at flooding in the street, and I call Councilman Mosley. He goes over there, and you got a negative value. The level is low, but the streets are flooded. So it's a problem between those two pumps. The DD7, meeting with DD7 is not the problem. I done talk with DD7. I go out that night and all the flooding. Their pumps work fine. As a matter of fact, they even have people down there manually raking the trash out of the suction to make sure when the water level gets there, it won't have anything restricting it. The problem is somewhere between the streets and the suction of those pumps.
That's what I was trying to tell you, Councilor.
I know. I understand what static means.
The system could be under design.
Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, when they came to also to add to what we've been talking about, they're not only supposed to be doing from their plans the 400 plus units, but they're also on the frontage of 365 going to do some retail. That's kind of what they've also been talking about doing. So we're going to get property tax, and we're going to possibly be getting sales tax also from this development. We had somebody else come before, they wanted us to do something for them, and in return, and we do this. They're ready to contribute, and then they're not asking for any abatement or any sales. They're not asking for any of that. I think this is a great deal. A lot of our bond rating in the city of Port Arthur, we have an okay bond rating, but we're probably not going to go anywhere because from our advisors and the people that we deal with, they said that all of our eggs are in one basket, meaning that the majority of our property, our tax money comes from the refineries. So what we've been trying to do for a long time now is try to diversify that here in the city of Port Arthur, meaning other property taxes besides, other sales tax besides refinery. Us just relying always on the refinery. So I think this is a perfect thing for us to attract some folks into our city. Again, get some property tax, and then once they do the development along the frontage on 365, there'll be some opportunity for sales tax also. So I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a great time for us to invest right here. Thank you.
Councilman Albright.
Thank you. Since everybody else got to hop off topic, I'm going to make one statement on being off topic. And in fairness to the city manager, whenever we hired him, interviewed him, and everything else, and just like this past budget, not one time did we scream drainage is the all-powerful thing that needs to be addressed. We never did. Now, that being said, do we need to address drainage? Yeah, but it's one of those things, don't attack them and everything else, because we as a council never drove the budget for drainage or anything else. All right? Now, do we need to? Yeah, we need to address it because I think we're getting harder rains and longer rains, because of climate change or El Nino or whatever you want to call it. But, to sit there and attack them and go, well, you need to find money and this is now priority number one, you didn't set your budget for that. So it's one thing to ask staff to develop because, the next budget we want to hit that. But you got to be fair. Thank you.
And just for the record, I don't think we're attacking the city manager. We are making a point about the drainage of areas that we know flood constantly. Now, if I were attacking you, city manager, you would know it. I'm not attacking you, sweetheart. No, but I was one of those that said what I had to say. I still say we need to look at that in a hurry. In a hurry. So just for that's for the record, and I hope we've captured that everywhere. Councilmember Mosley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the sake of the record and clarification, Councilmember mentioned that no one said anything about drainage. Councilman Mosley been saying drainage since he got on council, and he's been talking about sewer problems since he got on council because he's living with it. So I don't know if he's ever been in the area. He has anyone who's called him. But Council Mosley been dealing with drainage and flooding since he got on council. All right? Second, Councilman Mosley is not attacking the city manager. He's reminding the city manager and everyone involved regarding the concerns of the taxpayers who have been complaining for the last 3 years or 2 years. In the years I've been on council, they are not getting representation. They've been left out. Their homes are getting flooded. And it's real, folks. For you who don't live in a flooded area, who don't have to deal with water, fine. You're doing good. Your home is dry. Your furniture is dry. But for the other people who have to change carpets, every time you get a big rain, I get a call. City manager know he and I have been out before. Gentleman just about threatened me to death with it. Nice homes. These folks live in $100,000 homes. They don't intend to have their carpets pulled out every time it rains and snakes pulled out of their houses. Look, folks, this is for real. And I'm saying when we're developing on the north side of Port Arthur instead of the south side of Port Arthur, we're doing the taxpayers a disservice. When I came on council, the argument was we're going to do what the taxpayers have asked us to do. And flooding and drainage is one of them. Incentives, and I'll be through. Incentives. You give an incentive to somebody where they normally would not go. You don't give incentives where everybody is. Make sense? Why give them $1 million when everybody is there? They'll connect. They'll hook up. If we want them to come to South Port Arthur, then we give them an incentive. If they don't want to come to South Port Arthur, because that's where you want them to come. Normally they won't go in those areas because there's no incentives.
City manager, your light's on. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to have Dr. Johnson come to the podium and clear up a couple of upgrade issues.
Okay, while he's coming, Councilmember Frank, okay, go ahead. Doc.
Mayor, Council, I just wanted to remind you that part of our NPDES permit and also the Texas Administrative Code, and in that code we have a certificate of convenience and necessity, requires our city to upgrade its infrastructure. And we as planners, we have to look at areas and make a determination based on our evaluations and surveys whether or not that area is going to be affected. And that's not just occurring in one particular area, but that's occurring all over our city. We have smaller in-house projects that we're upgrading lines in the east side, west side, all over our city. This particular area is not just because there's development going out there. It's because if we don't address the area, we will have violations. And I'm not sure if you are aware that we're already under an administrative order for sanitary sewer overflows. So in order to keep the city in compliance, we have to address those infrastructure concerns. So I just wanted to come back and revisit that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Councilmember Hamilton?
Well, with what Dr. Johnson just stated, may I make a motion that we call for a vote?
I'm about to do that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, everybody's had an opportunity to speak. It's been moved and seconded that we approve proposed resolution number 19228. City Secretary, would you do a roll call for the vote, please?
Councilmember Albright?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank?
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis?
No.
Councilmember Mosley?
No.
Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Swati?
Yes.
Mayor Prince?
Yes.
Measure passes.
Thank you.